Powered by Righteous Media.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 390. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. It is Wednesday, December 10th, and it is still cold as hell. 15 days until Christmas, and I am coming to you again from New York City, USA. We've got a fantastic guest coming up to help us plow through the cold and the chaos. The great and powerful Stephanie Ruhle will be joining us in just a second, host, of course, of the 11th Hour on MS Now, and It's Happening with Ali Velshi. That happens every Wednesday on YouTube. She's coming up in a minute. She loves Christmas. She has thoughts on youth sports, the Fed cut, and much more. But first, there is a ton happening today. Trump gave a very weird and typically meandering speech yesterday at a casino resort in Pennsylvania that was supposed to focus on affordability, and he basically said that affordability isn't a thing. He called American European allies weak and decaying as he criticized them on immigration and, of course, the war in Ukraine. He said, quote, "I think they don't know what to do." Big news that's happening today. The Fed Reserve is set to lower borrowing costs again. Tough decision for the Fed, maybe the toughest call since September when they debated the size of the rate cut. Stephanie Ruhle is the perfect person to talk about that. The latest on the U.S. boat strikes, Xmas, and allegations of war crimes continues to unfold. Democrats are calling for the full video release of the boat strike. That everybody should be calling for that. It seems like a no-brainer. Today, Hegseth is briefing the Gang of Eight. If you don't know what that means, they are the 8 leaders in Congress who are supposed to be, and normally, briefed by the executive branch. So that means the House Committee on Intelligence chairs, Rick Crawford, the Republican, and Jim Hines, the ranking member. It means on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Tom Cotton and Mark Warner. It means Speaker Johnson and Minority Leader Jeffries, and then John Thune, the Majority Leader on the Senate, and Chuck Schumer. So that's the Gang of Eight. You're going to hear a lot about them today. If it's anything like the last couple of briefings, it will be a partisan reaction, and Hegseth will continue to be in the middle of it. News on Admiral Alvin Holsey, the military commander that's so key to all of the suspected drug boat attacks. He briefed lawmakers yesterday, House and Senate Armed Services Committee. He did speak to them directly, which was long overdue. Representative Adam Smith said, "We got some clarity on the chain of command and who made decisions at what point, but on the legality of it, we didn't get a lot of clarity." And simultaneously announced, almost, after a lot of speculation, it's announced he will retire on Friday. Admiral Holsey is getting out on Friday. This is very, very important, I think. I hope he takes a short and well-deserved vacation, but then his next stop should be extended interviews with top journalists. Back in the day, it would be a place like 60 Minutes, but who knows? Maybe it's C-SPAN, PBS, our friend Steph Ruhle. He's, of course, welcome here. But the American people, and especially the troops, have a right to know and a need to know what he thinks, especially before possible strikes on Venezuela, which is, of course, still front and center. Senator Tim Kaine says the Senate will likely vote next week on restraining Trump from taking military action against Venezuela. It'll be interesting to see if they get a majority this time. Important to note, too, they're almost out of time in session in Congress, so this might be the last vote they have before Christmas. No boat strikes as of yet today so far. That means as of December 5th, 87 people have been killed, 22 strikes on 33 vessels, and still no authorization from Congress, of course, and most of the country doesn't support it. But there was some news below the radar that I want to track on. There's a news source called The War Zone that focuses on military operations and stuff that most folks aren't tracking on. Yesterday, 2 F-18 Super Hornets were tracked flying deep inside the Gulf of Venezuela, openly sending fighters into the Gulf around Venezuela, like 20 miles off of land. So the pieces continue to be in place, and it looks like our military assets are continuing to probe. In other parts of the world, a joint Chinese-Russian bomber patrol happened, and it sent Japanese and South Korean fighters scrambling. This is the latest example of a probe potentially by China and a response from their neighbors. Also in the news, House Speaker Mike Johnson quickly stripped language from the Defense Authorization Act that would have restored a State Department office tasked with relocating Afghan refugees. This is really important, especially to so many veterans who are listening, who've worked hard to protect our Afghan allies. This is, of course, in the wake of the November National Guard shooting. There will be pushback from the bipartisan members of all kinds of veterans community, but it's below the radar and something we are going to track on. In political news, Georgia Democrat Eric Gissler flipped a state house seat in Georgia that was won by Trump by double digits last time. Miami elected its first Democratic mayor in nearly 30 years. Eileen Higgins is a former Miami-Dade County commissioner who will be the city's first female mayor and non-Hispanic mayor since the 1990s. In Ukraine, it's the 1381st day of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Zelensky said presidential elections could happen in as soon as 30 to 90 days. They've been under martial law and they haven't had elections, but this is in part a direct response to an accusation by Trump. So Zelensky continues to navigate a minefield politically as his people continue to be bombed. In culture, Natalie Portman, Charlie XCX, Chris Pine, and Wu-Tang are going to dominate the Sundance Film Festival's final edition in Park City. They're moving from Park City. I think the Wu-Tang Clan piece in particular is noteworthy. We'll have more on that, I hope. But Sundance is leaving and going to Colorado. In sports news, the Knicks beat the Raptors in the NBA Cup quarterfinals. Magic beat the Heat. The Dodgers reliever Edwin Diaz, who has the best entrance in baseball, struck a 3-year deal with the Dodgers. The Dodgers keep bulking up, and Kyle Schwarber is going back to the Phillies on a 5-year, $150 million deal. And it is still Army-Navy Week. The big game is coming up. We talked about it yesterday with Wes Moore. We'll talk about it with you throughout the week, and we will talk about it with our guest, who is coming up and a person who always helps us stay vigilant. That guest is the great and powerful Stephanie Ruhle, a person who I think is maybe the coolest person in television. She's like very down to earth. If you don't hang with her when the lights aren't on, you might not know that. She's really earnest and fun and no bullshit. She hasn't been on this show since March 5th, 2020, when we drank tequila in a room at 30 Rock and COVID.
Well, why haven't you invited me back?
I have invited you back. More on that in a second. But here she is, the great and powerful Stephanie Ruhle, finally back. Welcome back, my friend.
First of all, talk about giving me a run for their money. You just nailed all the news, okay? You gave us sports, you gave us culture, you gave us national security, you gave us economics, you gave us general headlines. Across the board, brother, like you just nailed it, and I'm thrilled to be back. Thanks for having me.
Well, that means a lot coming from you. Thank you. There's a lot to get through every day. You do it every night. Whew, right? I mean, it's good to see you not in a studio with your Christmas-colored sweatshirt on. Thanks for coming back, man.
Thank you. That hoof, there's a lot in there. And part of that is just the world is moving so fast and there's almost this level of news exhaustion. But I guess where I think your hoof is so important and where I'm grateful for you, you're not disconnecting. There's so much out there that the risk that we run is that people tune out. And I just want to make the point to people, and I'm not saying tune out of my show. Tuning out is a privilege and one that we will regret if we do so down the line. I think it is crucially important. And it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are or your ideology. Things are changing quickly. Norms, things that we rely on, potentially the health of our democracy. And I just think right now it is crucially important to be informed and engaged. So that hoof that you gave, I feel it, I see it, I honor it, and thank you for caring so much.
I respond with the woof and give you a word. That's absolutely true. Word up. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. So I ask everybody this: where are you, my friend, and how are you?
I'm great. I am here in New York City. I'm in Times Square right now. Listen, for me, I am so privileged to be in the position that I'm in. I think the news business right now is exhausting. I think we have, perceived foes or enemies that are trying to knock us down, but I don't think we have any enemies. I think even this idea that you have a current administration who thinks that journalists are out to get him. You don't. The president's current feel about, bad media isn't new, right? We saw this out of the likes of Richard Nixon and his administration. That's always been the case. But people in power who don't want journalists to cover them and shine a light, they're now superpowered by so many other voices in social media that wants to knock you down. I think right now we have super important jobs to just hold the light and make sure everybody knows what's going on in this world. But I'm great. I'm very lucky.
I appreciate that perspective, and I'm often reminded of it, especially around the holidays when, folks are thinking about Christmas time and the holidays, and I remember being deployed to a war zone, and my mom, being worried every minute, right? And I think about kids in Ukraine who are in subways, singing Christmas carols and going to class. We are
But
very
we
lucky.
need to remember all those people, right? And it's super easy not to. Remember, I don't want to get up on a tangent, but probably 9 weeks into the war in Ukraine, I took my oldest son to Ukraine and Poland to go volunteer for a week for no other reason, or what sparked it is when you're here and you're in the zone and you're going to school and you're going to sports, then you're going to extra sports, and then you're going to club sports, and then you're planning your summer vacation, you can easily not be aware of the world around you. And I think that the more we can actually tune in and be engaged, and I think that's one of the best parts about independent media, and I will say social media, that while we say people are tuned out and they don't care, it's not true. People might be tuned out of what traditional media was, or they're not all going home and sitting down at 6 o'clock and watching a traditional newscast. But I can tell you, my kids are older than yours. Kids, and I don't always like the sources where they get their information, are more engaged on current events because there's so much of it and there's so many outlets. I think it's great how engaged people are, right? When you were just talking about an outlet, what were they called? The war zone?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is like, shouldn't we be again, I don't know anything about them. I don't know their sourcing, but just the idea that we have these outlets that are completely focused on things that my national news show isn't every night. Or if you tuned into a big morning television broadcast or an evening news show where they've got, 60-second clips covering every different topic, the fact that we now have so many dedicated organizations really covering stuff and covering stuff around the world, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this open source intelligence stuff, especially online, where you can do things like track aircraft movements, right? Like you can track the plane of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs when he goes to Puerto Rico. And in traditional times, that would be absolutely unacceptable to put out there. But I mean, when I put it out, it's usually after it's been out there for a while in public. And of course, our enemies probably saw it long before that, and our allies and our adversaries saw it as well. But it's a really careful time where if you look below the hood, and you go to trusted voices, you can find some really, really good shit, right? And help you stay ahead of the curve. But I want to come back to something
But
because I
wait,
can't
let
have
me
you
just
on.
say one thing to
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
point. Wait. To
Go
that
ahead.
point, how amazing has the reporting been in the last 3 weeks from the Pentagon press corps? Okay? Pete Hegseth and the Pentagon said, sign this nonsense document that says we basically won't cover anything except a press release, which would be reporters just saying, Pete Hegseth was great today. He was great yesterday, and tomorrow he's going to be even better, right? Those are the press releases they would give you. The fact that the press corps and all stripes of the press corps said, we are not signing this. We're going to walk the heck out. And after they did that, we saw the likes of the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times kill it with this reporting. We know so much about what happened on those boats or around those boats in the Caribbean because of that reporting. And it shows you that people inside the Pentagon think that what's happening is so important. They are willing to tell those stories, obviously anonymously to protect themselves. But it's this, when everybody's like knocking on journalism, like I look at what's happened there and juxtapose that with a president who in the last month is calling reporters, female reporters, by the way, piggy, stupid, rude, obnoxious, blah, 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 blah. And what happens? That press corps keeps showing up every day,
Yep.
right? If
Yep.
that press corps said, this is not acceptable, we are not showing up, it would be interesting to see what the administration would do, because in the beginning of this administration, when they kicked out the AP, because the AP wouldn't call it the Gulf of America, somebody from Trump's first administration called me and said, nobody should show up. He said nobody should show up for a week because Donald Trump's favorite hour of the day is when he is sparring with the press. And not just the press that's fawning all over him, asking him when he was great at being great. He loves the friction. He loves the fight. That's what generates headlines. But I just want to give that shout out to that Pentagon press corps who are just nailing it.
No, I think it's one of the most important stories in America, and it's fueling all the other stories, which I think are about the most important story in America,
But
which is
it's
that he
easy
can.
to forget. Unless
Yeah.
there's new reporting on it, my mother is not thinking about what is happening off the coast of Venezuela. I can
Yep.
promise you.
No, it's right. I mean, I still, and I've said this on your show, I'll keep saying it, the most important story in the world is that Donald Trump can do whatever he wants with the most powerful military in the world. And for the most part, nothing is stopping him. So the Pentagon
Right,
press
most
corps,
people don't think, unless they have your background and your expertise, most people are not thinking about it. They're thinking about what Donald Trump mocks, the affordability issue.
I'm going to get to that. I want to get to a number of things, but we have had Dan Lamothe on. We've had Barbara Starr on. We've had a lot of folks from the Pentagon press corps, past and present, who are holding the line now, in contrast to the propaganda press corps and Laura Loomer and the My Pillow guy. But let me ask you a question that I think is kind of central to all this. You have kids, right? And you, I think you're doing, from the outside, you're doing a great job. You take your kid to Ukraine. You took your kid to Selma. You know, they're doing well. Can I ask you about how you're parenting through this and how you parented earlier that set your kids up to be smart and do well and be successful? And frankly, also in the midst of the president calling women reporters piggy, right? Like this disgusting shit that we see out of his mouth every day. You're raising
Okay,
young
well,
men,
well, well,
right?
let's just start with, like, before we give me, a Nobel Prize for parenting, let's just start with, I assure you, I spent my holiday break with my two sons saying "quiet piggy" to me for 4 straight days. Okay, like, so let's be clear. I am also the parent of wise asses who love to rip on me, and I mean, all of Thanksgiving break was
Respectfully, I get
yes,
that, but like,
yes,
isn't that
yes, just
so fucked up? Isn't that
yes.
so fucked up?
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's unfortunate that I spent 4 days with my sons every time I spoke with them saying "quiet piggy." That's wildly unfortunate. I am not a parenting expert, but here's what I would say. I don't have a ton of new friends or new interests. I have 18 years with my children. Okay? The number is somewhere between 80 and 90% of the time you spend with your children is before they're the age of 18. So while I have this window with them, I just want to be near them. And I promise we're not necessarily they are not just eating organic vegetables and we're not doing flashcards. I promise rated R movies are being watched, cursing is happening. But I just think the most important thing for me has just been be together, hang out together, right? It's when that child of yours is in their room and the door's closed and they're holding the most dangerous weapon out there, and it's a smartphone. Okay, when we were in high school, there is no chance my parents would have put a television or a computer in my room with unlimited access to violence and pornography and put a lock on my bedroom door. There's no chance that would happen. And I think we keep thinking because our kids are quiet and they're in the house and the door's closed, everything is okay. I actually think that's the opposite of okay, right? More kids should be, sneaking out of the house or climbing out of the window or, dirt biking and breaking an arm. It's so much more dangerous when you look at the path that they're on. Oh, they're just playing Minecraft, they're just playing Roblox, and look where that gets them, right? When I look at my sons, my 19-year-old son, and I look at the photos that he gets on his phone from girls that he knows, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that, like, this is what kids' lives are like. Like, this is the pressure that my daughter is going to be under. This is the weird world that my sons live in. But what was amazing to me over the last few years was watching my older son and sort of his sort of generation or his community, how open they were in this last election to Donald Trump, despite all that he has offered, all that he's done. And I'm not feeling bad for them, but I think in this quest to be inclusive, I can completely see where the backlash happened. That we looked at people with your profile, with who you were when you were 17 and 18, and I'm guessing you were a meathead. A meathead is different from a toxic male, right? A meathead hopefully grows up and cooks that meat a little and becomes a responsible, great member of society. And I think that the most important thing we can do as parents and people is just live with open minds and hearts. Is care about your neighbors, like actually believe that strangers are friends you haven't met yet. Like give people the benefit of the doubt. Like if you get burned, so be it. I'd rather give people the benefit of the doubt and get burned than live my life with sharp elbows or be paranoid. And I can definitely say in the beginning of my career, I was way more sharp elbowed and way more competitive. And I used to definitely subscribe to the belief of like every situation I was in, like I'd find a perceived enemy. I need to beat that enemy. Like it's such a tiring way to live. And now we're watching that in our leadership. The fact that we've now vilified the word empathy, right? That we look at empathy as like part of like the wimpification of America. Empathy is your superpower. Doris Kearns Goodwin, the extraordinary presidential historian, said that every president, after they win, basically travel the country, actually see how people live, understand the job, and where they grow into the job is they gain understanding and empathy for others. And she said what she found to be so interesting was that Donald Trump never gained that stroke. So for me, as the parent of very privileged sons and daughters, the more you can have your kids, you know, working hard, whether it's physically at sports, academically at schools, committed to their faith, but more than anything, just be kind people. And I say this as somebody who is definitely not kind at points in my life. And I say this as a parent of a daughter in the 7th grade. And it does not matter if you go to the 7th grade in New York City or New Mexico. 12 and 13-year-old girls are among the most diabolical, mean maniacs out there. And if we can actually try to teach this next generation that kind is the new cool, holy shit, how powerful can we be?
Do you have T-shirts that say that? Kind is the new cool? If not,
You know, it's very funny that you say that. My daughter was invited to a birthday party last year of a girl who was extraordinarily mean to her at every possible turn. And my daughter's like, I definitely do not want to go to that party. And I said, can we just custom make that girl a kind is the new cool sweatshirt and give it to her as a parent, you know, for her birthday? And my husband was like, your diabolical side is coming out again, Stephanie. Let's just RSVP.
Well, I think if you put them up in the new MS Now $1 store, I think they're going to do well.
But just think about this, okay? When I leave work at night, I have a sick, twisted practice that I go on Twitter and I respond to my hate comments. And I respond to all of them with love, just to see what happens.
That's
When
good.
they tell me I'm old and I'm wrinkled and I look like shit and my arms are fat and my hair looks like crap and I'm stupid, I respond to every single one of them. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I haven't worked out in ages. You're right. I got to work late and they barely did my hair. And chances are when people do insult my content or I get it wrong, the truth is it's most likely on a Thursday or a Friday. And they're usually right because I'm tired. Because it's like halfway through the week and I got a little too sassy and I didn't cross my T and dot my I. But the reason I do this is because I think that we have been desensitized to mean because of social media.
Yeah, I think that's
Because
right.
you can say and do mean, snarky things without ever having to show your name or your face. And the reason I respond with what I would like to consider is some humanity or humor is to say, like, did you really mean that? Like I know that I'm on television, but you know that I'm an actual person. And every day my goal is like to try to help people, myself included, get better and smarter. Like, did you really mean to tell me that I'm dressed like a fat disco pilgrim who's an extra from Golden Girls? Maybe you meant to say that, and maybe that's super funny.
No, but it's
And you
really
in your
important.
house.
It's really important because the empathy, the kindness, just the honor and respect. I think it was Ariana Huffington that said this, and you have to check it. But like she said, basically, you would never say that shit on the street. Right?
Correct.
You would never yell across the street to someone.
Hey,
So to say it
fatty.
but here's the bad part, right? Is that it's become a manifestation of this administration, right? Like Hegseth is like the guy who says, my dad can beat up your dad, right? And the opposite of kindness is cool. But
Okay, so here's the thing.
Hold on, let
So
me come
when
back to
Pete
it.
Hegseth says my dad can beat up your dad, you know what we should do? Go home and practice push-ups and pull-ups. So the next time he does, beat him at a contest with love.
Or give RFK Jr. a fucking drug test because no 71-year-old should be able to do that many pull-ups. I said this with Wes Moore yesterday on the show. Like, I think they should put a pull-up bar at the middle of the Army-Navy game. Okay, RFK Jr. has to come out, but not just the proxy. Trump has to take his fat ass out too, right? Get Trump on the bar because you can't send proxies out. Westmore comes out on one side, and you can send out RFK, but he's got to take a piss test first. And if he passes the piss test, then maybe we'll consider him in the proxy war, but he has to go up against like Mikey Sherrill or somebody else. But let me ask you something that I think
would fail the test, just so you know.
You're
but
fine,
I'm just saying, when they punch you in the face,
you see what this says?
Curse more. When
Curse
they
more.
punch you in the
Before
face.
we came on, you said you were going to curse less.
I know. I said I wasn't going to curse.
But
when
I'm
they
telling
punch
you what.
in
Let
the
me.
face,
Can I?
don't
Hold
punch
on.
them back.
Hold on. I'm hosting today. Hold on. Hold on. So like the authenticity of the realness, the community, like we've been friends now for, I don't know, 2 decades. Like I know you go to the shore with your kids and you're hanging out on the couch and you love Halloween. Like you love Halloween more than I do, and I love Halloween a lot. And I feel like you love Christmas, but you're building a really important example for your kids, and the way you're showing people to be, even, you do the look for the helpers piece. We're going to do something good at the end of this show. That's really important, and it's deliberate. And I just want to thank you for being real, for keeping it coming. And I have to ask you, because I'm going to get to a question, youth sports. You have thoughts on youth sports. And I mentioned to you as we were getting ready, we got shooting clinic tonight. They moved it from Monday to Wednesday. And I said that was great because I think in youth sports, they play too many games and they don't do enough fundamentals. So shout out to Steady Buckets and Coach Mackey and a lot of the other coaches that are doing it the right way. But in this proxy world where our kids aren't joining the military for the most part, they're not going to war. Sports is our like default training ground for so many of these kids, and it's gotten pretty crazy. Can you just give me your thoughts on it now that you have a 19-year-old on the other side? There's so much content online about youth sports, but what's the Stephanie rule on youth sports? Go.
I'm so blown away and disheartened by the big business of youth sports. And when I look at my community or my kids and I see, listen, I love that kids are committed. I love that they're going to, first of all, they should be going to a lot more practice and a lot fewer games. But pick your sport, soccer, lacrosse, football, whatever it is. We have now got kids on not just their town team, not just their school team, not just their rec team. They're on club team after club team with their own video producer shooting a showcase video. And these kids do not have a summer break. They do not have a winter break because they're going to tournaments all year long. And what's amazing to me is, how can families do this with working parents? It's not actually possible.
No.
So it's not, you need tens of thousands of dollars to do this. And then you need an unlimited amount of time.
You need a full, you know this, we live in Manhattan. There are plenty of people who have a full-time nanny that does nothing else but take them from sport to school to sport to school to tournament, right? It's like a job.
People
it's basically like a bodyguard for a bunch of kids who are playing 5th grade soccer.
And that's in New York City. And last I checked, like I look at like New York City youth hockey, and kids are kids can only get rink time at a place in Hackensack, New Jersey at 9:00 at night, and 2nd graders are going. And I want to say, newsflash, name 10 NHL players who grew up on the Upper East Side. You know what the answer is? None. Listen, team sports, youth sports are such a great path to success, right? I am married to a college athlete. When I look at the community he has because of sport, personally, professionally, like it's been the secret of his success. But I just think now it has been so unbelievably monetized that you have 2 groups of people whose kids are excelling at it. People who are so privileged that nobody has to work, that they can go to every tournament and move to Florida in the off season and blah, blah. Those people are people who are going and doing the full Tanya Harding and moving their family into a trailer next to a rink, next to a place, and doing nothing but betting everything on their child in that sport. And I'm sorry, but the answer has to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and there are kids who are the scholarship kids of the next generation, right? The kids who get to go to IMG for free because 5, hedge fund guys send their kids. I mean, I think
but even the scholarship kids, you have less and less of them because
they're not profitable.
Now,
they're not profitable.
Kids of privilege are committing to a sport, one sport, when they're 5 years old and they're playing it year round.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like most people that are our age, maybe were always born athletic, but didn't take up their craft. You could say ballet is obviously not a sport, but Misty Copeland didn't put on a pair of ballet shoes until she was 12 years old. And so now, even those kids who are not, kids who are theoretically scholarship kids aren't even necessarily getting up to the plate, because you could have all the natural ability in the world. But if the kids one town over are on 4 club teams with 16 different coaches, you can't get in the game.
Yep. Yep. But you're the right person to talk to, because it is a business now. And that business has cannibalized rec sports, right? Kids don't want to play rec sports because the travel kids are coming over just to use that to just dunk on everybody, right? And it kind of
Correct.
removes the fun out of it. I've been coaching youth sports all year round, basketball, flag football, soccer, little league, and especially now that my older kid's about 10, now you really feel it. Right now, those kids who want to just play and be around their friends are kind of getting driven out because there's a 9-year-old who's throwing, 80 miles an hour and just blowing everybody away, and he's tired of getting smoked. But let me ask you, you are the business.
Crew is the one sport, and I know it's a total bougie sport, but what's funny about crew is it's the only sport I can think of that kids can't play when there's no youth crew. So you actually
Yeah.
see
You have to
some
wait till you
level.
get to an elite college before you can do crew, right? I mean,
Yes, but it's
yes.
funny
I
because
never even
it's the
saw crew. I saw crew in like a movie from England or so. Like I thought that was something they did in England until I got to
100.
Amherst.
I'm like, crew? Well, I'm like,
Yeah.
is that a
The crew
canoe?
people, the crew people are hardcore because they get up at like fucking 4 in the morning and they're training all the time. I have a lot of respect for crew. Like I didn't know
I
shit
do, but
about
I'm
crew.
saying what's beautiful about it is it's this sport that kids do not have access to do until they're in the 9th grade,
Crew
and then they just
and
get on that
squash.
rower and they're just
Crew,
cranking.
crew and squash. Never saw it. Never knew anything about it until I got to
Me
Amherst. I'm
either.
like, oh, crew and squash. Wow. Okay, great. All right. Let me ask you. We got to go to a top topic. Top topic.
Okay.
This is perfect. You're the perfect person. You're in high demand today. At some point, I got to let you go because you're going to be on 100 shows today on MS Now and wherever else. Fed rate cut happening
Okay.
today. Is this early Christmas present or is this coal in our stocking? What does this mean for average people?
Listen, we are likely going to get a rate cut, which, is a positive, on its surface. People would like that. It means borrowing costs are lower. Yes, yes, yes. Here's the issue. Every president, right? Everybody wants low rates, right? Life's easier. However, inflation remains a persistent problem in this country. I would argue that persistent inflation and the last administration, not seeing people where they are struggling with inflation, I would consider to be one of the biggest drivers that elected Donald Trump into this presidency. And you have an administration that continues to be disingenuous about the simple cost of living. And it's why you are seeing Donald Trump underwater when it comes to how he's handling the economy. And it's amazing. You can bullshit my mother about what's happening in Venezuela. You can lie to her about what's happening in the Middle East or in Ukraine. She's not there. She doesn't see it. But she goes to ShopRite every week. She fills gas in her car and gas prices are down, and she shops for Christmas. And so now you have a president who has gone over and over saying the affordability crisis is a Democratic con. It's a hoax. It's not for real. He had to stop saying that. So now they sent him out on the road. He did a speech last night, for portion of it, he was on message, there's signs, this and that. And then he immediately is like, well, it's bullshit. All this talk of affordability. When he's air quoting affordability, that hurts people where they are. People vote on what affects them much more than they vote on what offends them. And affordability is a real issue. And I think what could really hurt this administration is we have a good economy. I'm not saying we don't, but we have a K-shaped economy. So the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And this administration doesn't just not acknowledge that. It's like they're jamming it in your face, right? Well, the president is saying, buy less presents for Christmas. Well, there's a Fox News commentator saying, this Christmas, adults don't need gifts. Well, they're saying that. He's throwing a Great Gatsby themed party at Mar-a-Lago. You've got dinners that cost $1 million a head, and they're shaking down super wealthy people and businesses to pay for a 90,000 square foot ballroom when we've got a problem in our country with unemployment. And if AI supercharges the way it's likely going to do, thousands and thousands of jobs are going to get wiped out. It was Sam Altman from OpenAI who said recently, listen, if jobs get replaced because AI replaced them, and I'm paraphrasing, were they really jobs worth having? Well, you know what? They were jobs worth having. We can always optimize and automate to an extent. But yeah, the dignity of work, people having a place to go every day and responsibility and a job, that's what people are looking for. That's what builds communities. And so I think sort of the last administration didn't accurately diagnose or explain the reality of inflation. And now this administration is taking it to a whole other level. And the impact of tariffs has been difficult. We thought it was actually going to be worse, but those price hikes are still coming. And the president just saying cut rates, cut rates, cut rates, no matter what, which could make the environment more inflationary. Inflation hurts. People
Mhm.
care about it.
So I think there's a really interesting point where he's knocking on the word affordability. Right? He's making it a Democrat thing in the same way he wants to make woke a thing, right? Or liberal a thing. And I think this was this really interesting danger point where I think Democrats know they're onto something, but maybe overplaying their hand, right? The idea that Mamdani is the model going forward. I don't think that they're saying prices are too high, rent is too high, taxes are too high, things cost too much. Like this is where the political analysts are kind of splitting the difference and coming up with a term. And what I see Trump doing is saying, okay, stock market's up. Okay, your credit card rates are down, your mortgage rates are down. You know, you still have a job. Look at what I'm doing for you. And I think he's maybe 30 days away from that. And that could be a danger point for the Democrats who now I think are feeling overconfident about the midterms and give him an opportunity to do what Republicans do best, which is like own the narrative, smush
And dunk
Democrats,
on them.
make them look weak, right? And businesses in the end probably going to side with the Republicans too. So you've got that factor. So I think
Hey, listen,
it's
if
a delicate
businesses have a
spot right
tax,
now, right? I feel like the Democrats are at that point where they always are, where they're like feeling really good about themselves. They won the mayor of Miami and they feel like 2026 is a lock when he might invoke the Insurrection Act and we might not even have elections. But it's a really, you're going to be perfect on this in the next couple of weeks. It's
nothing,
a really, it feels
nothing is a
soft, right?
lock.
It feels soft.
Absolutely. Absolutely nothing is a lock, and no one anywhere should say that Zohran Mamdani is the face of the Democratic Party. And they shouldn't say that Mikey Sherrill is the face of the Democratic Party, and they shouldn't say that Wes Moore is. We are a country of 330 million people. The thing that they should think about is the same driving force that helped elect Donald Trump the first time, in large part, is the same driving force that elected Zoran Mamdani.
That's right.
Scores of
Yeah.
people who feel like they don't see their future. They think they see themselves paying into a social security system that's not going to pay them in the back end. They cannot afford their rent. The average age of a first-time home buyer is 40 years old right now. People are saying this system does not work for me. That same sentiment is the same thing that elected both of those men.
That's the sweet
So
spot. Yeah. That's the
the
sweet spot.
key for
It's
lawmakers
rigged.
is
It doesn't work
not
for me. Screw the billionaires.
the
Right?
key for lawmakers is not to know what your title is, what your party is. The key is connect with people where they are, right? Here's a Democrat vulnerability. The administration is now putting in place a $12 billion farm aid package for farmers. That's obviously going to help farmers who have been seriously hurt by the tariffs because China's not being soybeans anymore. These farmers will gratefully take the money because they need it, but they don't want it. They don't want to need the farm aid. They want successful businesses. But the fact that in the first administration, Trump's tariffs caused a big hole and he had to then put in place a farm aid package. The fact that those farmers turned around again and voted for him a second time, knowing that he does not put forth policies, especially because he said from the get-go, I'm all about tariffs. The fact that they voted for him again, to me, shows huge weakness in the Democratic Party. That why were you not there? Why did you not go to the heartland? Why did you not meet with those voters? Meet them where they were, see what they need, speak to them, connect with them, and win their votes.
Yeah. I think the biggest advantage that Trump has and that the Republicans still have, whether it's true or not, is they are the fuck the everything people, right? Burn it all down, fuck the man, fuck the billionaires, fuck whether it's true or not. They kind of are, they're good at that. And when they put Dana White behind it and they put all these other people behind it and look like populists, I think that that's still the larger issue that people feel that is in their gut, right? They just want everybody to say, screw them all. I'm getting screwed by everybody. And Trump has been able to manipulate people into thinking that he's the guy who's going to fight for them. But let me ask you, we're going to
He
go
did
below
in
the.
Trump 1.0, but in Trump 2.0, I don't think he's doing that. But what's more dangerous is I don't think he's trying to push the populist message anymore. Okay?
Well, he'll get back.
Listen,
We'll see, right? I think you're right. I think you're
he
right.
did an event this week, but prior to that, he's only done 2 rallies this
Yeah,
year.
yeah. No,
That's
I think you're
very
right.
different from Trump 1.0.
I
Now,
think you're right.
I read it last night. I think Don Jr. has become 5 times, I don't want to say it because I'm going to get it wrong,
A
but
lot richer.
Trump's family
A lot
business,
richer.
they've become so much richer in the last 9 months. I don't think Trump is thinking about his base or even feeding his base or speaking to his base in the way he did in Trump 1.0. He does not need to get reelected.
I think that's
Okay?
all true. Exactly. That's exactly right, because I think he's high on power. I think they're all high on power, and they're pigs
And
at the trough
super wealth.
and super well. So let me ask you this. Let's go below the radar. Hexas had a bad week. A lot of people have had a bad week. China's had a pretty good year. As we end this year, right, we're almost at Christmas time. Is anybody having a better Christmas than China? Because you've seen everything from the economic situation to the chips to us moving our military assets away from the Pacific down to South America. Is there a bigger winner in all of this than China in 2025?
Vladimir Putin.
Yeah?
Vladimir Putin has had an amazing, yes.
He's punching himself out, right? Like, I would argue that even that is a net win for China, because they're okay to see Putin wear himself out, because it extends their dominance, right? If Putin loses a third of his military and if he goes down, then there's nobody. There's just China patiently waiting, building, and watching.
So remember, the whole idea behind the trade war was because China and their unfair trade practices, which everyone would agree are unfair. It's why years ago they put together the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the United States and a number of our allies, to take on China. But instead, the trade war has been crippling for American businesses, big and small. Look at the amount of small businesses in America that have gotten crushed by this. It's hurt the global economy, but China just had a $1 trillion trade surplus. They might not be selling stuff to us, but boy, oh boy, they're selling stuff around the world, right?
I told you before this interview, I got 6 Christmas hats and I think 24 hours for $4, right? I mean,
right? We wipe out USAID, which isn't just about, serving people around the world. It's about soft power in so many countries. China is in those countries building roads, doing their thing. No, China and Russia, think about this last peace talks, right? The timeline President Trump put on Ukraine just before Thanksgiving, like, you guys better wrap this thing up by Thanksgiving. And then that peace plan they put together was basically Kremlin talking points. Right? It was the famous chess player, Garry Kasparov, who's a huge Putin critic, who said earlier this week, when you saw Paramount come in with a hostile bid with Ellison money and Saudi money, with Kushner's tying it all together, he said, remember my Putinization list? How Trump was going to, on Kasparov's list of what Trump was going to do to mimic what Putin does, was take a major media outlet and ensure that it's owned and controlled by Trump allies or friends. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen. So I would say toss up. I would say best year, China, Russia, Taylor, and Travis.
Although Travis may not be finishing in a great year. I mean, that was a rough game. You think he's going to retire?
Game. He's got Taylor.
That's the thing, right?
Biggie's ready to be a plus one.
He might have CTE and he's not going to playoffs, but he's doing great everywhere else, right?
CTE aside, he's got TAY. I mean, he's ready to be a plus one.
All right. So you are always a bolt of happiness. We're going to go to the last segment on my show that you will like. It's a new thing we've been doing since we go daily. By the way, if you weren't watching us on YouTube, you missed the demonstration of my hat, and you're missing Stephanie Ruhle kind of in a much more casual environment. Chilled out.
Hat, though. I wish I had one.
No, I'll send you one. Or if I see you later at MS Now, I will bring one. Let's get to something good. I'm going to start, then I'm going to ask you, Steph, to share something good.
Something good. Oh, something sweet. Feel the fire.
It can be anything good that will end us with some positivity. And I thought about this one today because I called my mom. And my mom, like many older folks, has a hard time in the winter in the Northeast. And I reminded her, Ma, did you get any sunshine today? And my something good is sunshine. I don't want to go all Huberman on people, but I do think a little dose of sunshine. Sometimes you got to go outside, you got to go find it, but just standing in sunshine and fresh air and movement and interacting with people. Music helps too. But the something good I want to recommend to folks, especially if you're already starting to feel the doldrums and the depression of winter, sunshine. Just go out and get it, even if it's cold as shit. Go get some sunshine. It sets your circadian rhythms. You'll sleep better. And I think it's something good. My
I
defense,
agree with this. Go outside, say hello to a person, compliment. My kids rip on me constantly because when I'm out and I say to somebody, "Cute dog, I like your coat, I like your hat," blah blah blah. Like we have a tradition when we're in diners and stuff. If somebody's eating alone, we pick up their tab, and I'm just saying these like tiny acts. You might think you're being nice to somebody else. It all comes back to you. It comes back to you. Okay, I have two goods. Okay.
Hold on. The picking up the tab thing, that's awesome. I want to put that in the universe. I'm going to do that. Pick up the
Okay,
tab.
seriously, do it. Do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
You
tell you,
also
I'm going to
roses
even
and
wait.
thorns.
I'm going to even teach you how to do it and save money at the same time.
You
Okay?
taught me roses and thorns, and
There
we've
you
been
go.
doing that at my dinner table. We did it all through COVID. We do it almost every night. We still do roses, thorns, and thanks. We put a
And then,
thanks. at the
okay,
end of it.
ready? So
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to you a little better.
Go.
So when you're picking up a tab for somebody at a diner, you actually have to say to your family, "Oh, this is a privilege to do this. What if we weren't a family of means?" So nobody's ordering drinks on our family. Nobody gets an appetizer today. Nobody gets dessert. So chances are our bill at that diner is going to be $25 less because nobody got a Sprite and nobody got a cheesecake at the end. And for $25, right? Because you know, people are like, "Oh, sure, you can pay for something." Like it actually has to cost you something, right? Like the idea of generosity isn't give someone money. That money has to mean something to you. Okay. And so I just think maybe that person at a diner feels like eating alone. Maybe they don't feel like eating alone, but I believe you have a more than 50% chance that you are going to put a spark of joy in that person's day. And you'll be gone by the time they finish their meal. But when they turn around and just say, "Holy shit, I didn't talk to anybody for the last hour. I just ate this meal alone," and somebody just picked up my tab, I just think it's everything. And I can tell you, we have at least a dozen amazing stories of this happened at a diner and we ended up being there too long. We met the guy. The guy turns out to be this extraordinarily eccentric guy. Our family's made friends with him since then. But please pick up somebody's tab at a diner. My piece of good is the following. MS now just moved to Times Square. So I have not spent a lot of time in my life in Times Square. Now here I am at New York City's brightest tourist capital ever. And I am not the only girl who is gracing this part of New York City. New Year's Eve this year, none other than the diva queen herself, Diana Ross, at the age of 81, is going to be New York Rockin' Eve performer. I learned this today, and I just think while we moan and groan that we have people in politics that are too old to do their jobs and so on and so forth, the fact that Diana Ross is going to be performing at this year's New Year's Eve is my good, great for the day.
I love it. I have to ask two quick follow-ups related. One, did you ever go when you were growing up to Times Square and stand
Never.
out there?
Never.
You never?
Never.
How did you never do that? In
Never.
high school or some other time?
Never. I mean, I've done a lot of ridiculous, crazy things, but if we're getting personal for a moment, I don't do things where there's not access to a toilet.
I know.
When
That's
I was in-
that's the
When
thing.
I was in college, I witnessed one of my very best friends at a football tailgate get in a porta potty, have a bunch of dudes push a porta potty. I have witnessed what it looks like when someone is in a porta potty that gets knocked over. I don't use porta potties. I don't think about porta potties. They can't exist in my life. This is my one thing.
Everybody who's been
cannot-
in the Army knows that one. Everybody has seen
I
that, unfortunately. And
cannot-
I went to Times Square once. I think I was in
Did
junior.
you,
or
where
senior
did
high
you go to the bathroom?
You
Where did you
couldn't.
go to the
That was why I
Yeah.
never went back because you
Yeah.
couldn't. You got locked into this pen, and then we had like 25 people sleeping in the Carter Hotel, which
But
literally.
what are you doing? Like power
We-
drinking beers out in the
we-
cold?
Oh yeah, when we pulled back the carpet, I remember we pulled back the blanket, and there was literally a crack vial underneath it. I'm like, this is because we all chipped our money in, and I'm like, I'm never fucking doing this again in my life, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah.
And
So I'm like, so I'm going to stand out there in the cold,
Fitness hat. I love
There you
Diana
go.
Ross, but I
drinking
ain't doing it.
beers, and there's nowhere to use the bathroom. I'm gonna have to watch on
And
TV.
here's the other
Sorry.
critical follow-up. So if you live in the Northeast, you go to a diner. It's a Greek diner, right? They're
Yeah,
on
yeah.
every highway all around. If you're out
Yes.
west, it's something else. It's Waffle House in so many places. What do you get at the diner, Steph? What do you like to get at the diner?
I mean, obviously, always French fries. I don't love gravy fries, but a lot of people from New Jersey do. Always French fries. And like, I'm core to a grilled cheese. I'm core to a grilled cheese and tomato. To me, the magic of a diner, I've never had the pleasure. I've been a waitress for many, many years. I have never worked at a diner, but I am forever in awe of a diner menu that literally has souvlaki, lobster tails, and Belgian waffles. Like, who's in that kitchen? How do you have a menu that
They're
big?
doing it in like 1975. It's amazing. It's like all of Seamless in one place, right?
It's
Before there was
incredible.
Did you ever get I've never actually eaten a lobster at a diner. It's always entertaining, but have you
I've
ever
never
actually?
had I've never had a lobster. I've never had a shrimp cocktail at a
No.
diner, but I'm sure I have eaten at thousands of diners in my life. It's my favorite. I mean, I love a milkshake. Are you kidding me?
Pancakes and an omelet and the bacon and
And
all
by
of
the way,
it,
I
right?
love Waffle House. Like, we obviously don't have Waffle House in the North, but like, it's delicious.
Well, this conversation has been delicious. You are amazing. I am so thankful for your spirit, for your example, for your friendship, for your kindness. For folks who don't know you beyond television, you are super kind and real. And you're one of the few people that crack everybody up, like before, during, and after, in a way that is really, I think, important to keeping it real. I
That
think your
could get me
audience knows
fired.
that. You and Allie are doing this.
Every week when we're cracking up during the commercials and my producer is going, please stop. We're
Yeah, but
on
see,
an open mic. Please.
with all due respect to your producers, I think ratings would be even higher if they let that shit out. I tell you this all the time. I'm like, they need to just let it go because the banter in between and before and during after is so good sometimes. We're talking about
It's
youth
insane.
sports, or we're talking about Diana Ross, and you always
It's
bring
insane.
curveballs. So, and you have this new show with Allie on Wednesdays.
I
That'll
do.
be up
Okay,
there.
let me just tell you this. Really
Yeah.
quick before I
And
leave.
we're out of
So
time.
obviously,
but
I
there-
have my show on MS now, but
Yes.
I hear this criticism all the time and I participate in it. I want to make a television show like you want to make a podcast that covers things that people actually care about. And sometimes when we are in the circling the drain of a newsroom, we become disconnected for what people care about and we don't realize things that they don't know or they're not picking up on. Like, I want to make a TV show that people are shouting at the TV, ask this, I want to know that. So Ali Velsh and I used to do a traditional show together, and now we have brought back this effort. We just started doing it on YouTube Wednesdays at 3:00, where all we do is answer viewer questions. So people can send an email. It's velshirule@ms now, and just send a question. What do you want to know the answer to? And we're going to do our best to answer it. And listen, if we don't know the answer, we'll tell you, which guess what? Sometimes we don't. Better to be honest than get it wrong. And, we think of it as like a modern take on a call-in radio show, which actually is my dream to do a call-in radio show. Because the more we understand what matters to people, I think we're going to create our best content and the most useful information for people. For me, everything I make goes through the lens of how do we help people get better and smarter. And we're only going to do that if we're covering things people care about. So today, 3:00 YouTube, see you there.
I'm going to call in with a Jerky Boy's voice and call myself Johnny Diner and ask you questions
Perfect.
that feel. I think
Perfect.
you can't have a call-in show without a couple of Baba Booey guys calling up saying some crazy shit, right?
That would be my dream.
Yeah. All right. Well, you are awesome, and I'm so grateful
are
for you
awesome.
and your team. And Allie, also super nice guy. I love
He's a
Allie.
great guy.
He's a great dude. Thank you for always having me on and for focusing on all the issues. I'll probably see you in a couple hours at Times
Yes.
Square, which is really wild and weird and fun. Like Rockefeller Center was cool and beautiful, but like Times Square is just fucking nuts. You never know
It's
what
like
you're
the
going to see.
thunder. It's. I've lived in New York City for 30 years, and I think I've been in Times Square a dozen times. You are in the Thunderdome.
I like it more because I mean I like 30 Rock, but you go there at Christmas time and I'm like, oh my God, I got to go through that.
Well, I'm gonna
Times
tell
Square,
you, I'm
you
a new
literally
regular at the
don't know.
Times Square Cinnabon.
There were two, like, I think they were strippers on a Lamborghini outside last time I came in. Literally, they were like male strippers, and they had like a purple Lamborghini parked like 1 block from the new MS Now. So you never, and then
Yeah. They were standing up. They were out of the sunroof. I was inside the car. You just couldn't see me.
that would be a great promo. All right, folks, the great and powerful Stephanie Ruhle. Thank you for joining us. Watch her on the 11th hour. Watch her with Ali. Heed her advice, especially on youth sports and all things. And definitely follow her around Halloween time because she brings Halloween like nobody else.
Being kind is the new cool, but it doesn't mean you can't be really tough at the same time. Love you. Thanks for having me.
Boom. There it is. The great and powerful Stephanie Ruhle. Folks, we are daily now, and we are bringing you great guests like Stephanie Ruhle. Follow everywhere on social, subscribe, get the merch, join our Patreon community. We got a big week ahead. If you didn't hear yesterday with Governor Wes Moore, check it out Friday. A sneak preview here. We got Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill. We had Wes Moore representing Army. We got Mikey Sherrill representing Navy on Friday. Tune in for that. Later today, I'll be on News Nation with Connell McShane. I will be on Deadline White House down the hall from Steph on MS Now, maybe on CNN with Aaron Burnett. I'm going to pull the hat trick today. America might be divided, but here at Independent Americans, we're working to change that, adding light to contrast to heat. If you're the 50% of Americans who are independent or you're independent curious, hook it up. Join us. This is your show because our independent movement is hope for the future. Country over party, people over politics, light over heat, busting up the status quo and fueling a new movement. And that movement is growing. You feel it, you see it, and know that hope is the oxygen of democracy. That's the kind of hope that Steph Ruhle brought today. If you like this episode, share it far and wide. Definitely check us out on YouTube and invite others to declare their independence. And stay vigilant, my friends, because eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. You're not alone in your vigilance. We're all vigilant. We're all in this together. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. Thank you for tuning in to Independent Americans. Happy hump day. Stay vigilant. And remember, kind is the new cool. See you tomorrow.
It is. Bye. Thank you, Paul. See ya.
Powered by Righteous Media.